You may have heard in the news today or yesterday about a domestic terrorist storming an ICE building. If you were to visit social media, take Twitter for example, you will see people praising this man for doing what would otherwise be condemned for weeks by big tech and politicians, as everyone pretends to care about easy access people have to Molotov cocktails. Can we have a discussion about common sense Molotov control? The man also wrote a manifesto, but considering how touchy YouTube is these days, I don't think I should cover it here. Here is a screenshot of what was trending this afternoon as the media pretends that they did not radicalize this man. We all know they did. From the Fox article. The Seattle Times reported that the unidentified man appeared outside of the Northwest Detention Center in Tacoma with a rifle and threw incendiary devices at both the facility and nearby propane tanks, at one point setting a vehicle on fire. Officers responded to the incident at around 4 a.m. and called out to the man before shots were fired. It was not clear how many shots were fired or whether the man fired at police. I don't believe he did. Police spokesman Loretta Kuhl said the officers weren't wearing body cameras, but the area is covered by surveillance cameras from the detention center. The 4 officers involved were placed on administrative leave in accordance with the department's policy. None of them were injured. The man has since been identified as Willem Van Spronsen, 69, of Vashon Island, Washington. The media has spent the better part of a year attempting to convince people that there are concentration camps at the border. The rhetoric has finally led to somebody's death, and now there is literal blood on the hands of those who have been attempting to exploit the vulnerable for political points.
The United States is running concentration camps on our southern border, and that is exactly what they are. They are concentration camps. And if that doesn't bother you, I don't.
You know, she wasn't saying death camps, but she brought up never again. It seemed actually that she it seemed like she was trying to make a connection. What did you make of what she was saying?
Well, I think what she was trying to say, and I'm not going to explain away what she had to say, but you know, this is a real sticking point in the Democratic Party, and I think for a lot of Americans in terms of what's been going on down at the border, this family separation policy that went on.
Is the Trump administration currently running concentration camps at the border? Somewhat remarkably, this is a debate we are now having in the year 2019, as the administration builds out day by day a sprawling and ever-expanding system of irregular detention for desperate migrants who the president rails against and vilifies at every turn.
You have to wonder, if the living conditions are so bad in those detention centers, why do they keep coming? Is the rest of the world so bad that they are willing to run into what the media describes as a concentration camp, as it would be a step up from what they are used to? Or perhaps, have they heard about the free healthcare, free cash aid that awaits them in places like California? Whatever the case might be, demagogues in the media and in politics have encouraged all of us to stop with having property and borders and whatnot. They pretend to care about all of those in distress, but let's be honest. This is politics. This is all political theater. No one actually cares about any of these people. These politicians, the talking heads on the news, they care about the interests of their benefactors, which means that they care about winning the next election, maintaining power and gaining power. A lot of people can see right through it. This is an attempt to inflate voting numbers as much as possible in the next election by importing a new voting bloc from the third world. I'll let Barack Obama explain.
Is the election rigged?
No. Even though people try to discourage you from voting, if you want to vote and you show up at your polling place, they can't stop you from voting. They can't stop you from voting.
Did you catch that, everybody? Wink, wink. They can't stop you from voting if you show up. Wink, wink. They can't ask you if you're a citizen. Once you notice the pattern, it's pretty obvious. Even in 2016, Project Veritas was able to catch people admitting on camera that they were busing people from district to district to inflate Democrat voting numbers.
The plan that was discussed was how to bring people from one state into another state to vote illegally.
They could invalidate. Well, okay, let's just say in theory, if a major investigation came up of major vote fraud that way, how would they prove it and who would they charge? Are they going to charge each individual? Oh, sorry. Are they going to charge each individual with voter fraud? See, that's or are they going to go after the facilitator for conspiracy, which they could prove? And it's one thing if all these people drive up in their personal cars. There's a bus involved. That changes the dynamic.
So
it's the legality.
Well, yeah.
Because you can prove conspiracy if there's a bus.
Yeah.
If there are cars, it's much harder to prove.
And there's enough money.
If there's enough money, then you have people drive their POV.
Absolutely.
Or you have them drive rentals.
Yeah, with Wisconsin license plates. Absolutely.
Well, you can't have them with Wisconsin license plates because rentals here, most of them don't have Wisconsin license plates.
Oh.
But there's these things called used car auctions. Used car auctions, the titles belong to some unknown company. They're company cars.
And you know, these are multiple employers. These are not all one employer.
Use shell companies.
Yeah.
Cars come from one company, the paychecks come from another. There's no bus involved, so you can't prove that it's en masse.
There you go.
So it doesn't tip people off.
There you go.
That's what I'm saying.
See, okay.
The question is whether when you get caught by a reporter, does that matter? Because does it turn into an investigation or not? In this case, in this state, the answer is no. Because they don't have any power to do anything.
Right.
So what you do is you implement the plan on a much bigger scale. You implement a massive change in state legislatures and in Congress. So you aim higher for your goals, and then you implement it across every Republican-held state of making our people do what they're supposed to do. Not asking them, making them, not expecting them and taking them for granted, but beating the shit out of them and making them do it.
Like voters.
Yeah.
This is why they act like they care so much. They need to win the election by any means necessary. They are exploiting those that they say they care about, obviously. For no reason at all, here is a clip from a few days ago where the former head of ICE reminds AOC that crossing over illegally is not a way of applying for asylum.
You recommended family separation,
I recommend a zero tolerance.
which includes family separation.
The same as is with every U.S. citizen parent gets arrested with a child.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father
Mr.
from his
Holman, with
family.
all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're in the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum, you go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay.
We will take a look at some of the people who are calling this man a hero and some of the dumb things that they are saying, but I first wanted to give a little bit of credit to a Twitter account called @NewsShoot. This is BitChute's news desk account ran by recently censored independent journalist Nick Monroe. Nick Monroe does great work, and instead of plugging myself on patreon.com/wildsmile or newproject2.com/wildsmile, I felt it necessary to encourage those on Twitter to follow his account and appreciate the great work that he does, like I do. Much respect to both Nick Monroe and to BitChute. You can also keep a close eye on the other side as well, which is why you can easily find all of these armchair revolutionaries boasting about their exploits and planning upcoming protests. You can follow them on Twitter at IGD_news, and I think it would be worthwhile for more people to keep an eye on the things that they are willing to post to the public. Now let's take a look at some of the people on the far left and how they have reacted to all of this. Keep in mind, this guy was throwing Molotov cocktails at a propane tank near the building. He probably thought if he burnt the building down, everyone would be able to escape, but he was forgetting one important thing. Those people were in captivity. They would not have been able to get out, and he endangered the lives of everybody there, including the detained, in one last moral virtue stand. Looking like a hero to his comrades mattered more than the lives of those he wanted to appear heroic for saving. With that, let's take a look at some of these hot takes.
The media is lying. Willem Vance Bronson didn't hurt anyone and didn't target cops. He destroyed ICE transport vehicles. Unlike the right-wing murderers of Heather Heyer and 9 Charleston churchgoers, Willem was given an extrajudicial execution by Tacoma police. Rest in power. Remembering our comrade Will, who was murdered by Tacoma police on Saturday, and all of the immigrants detained in concentration camps by ICE. Say, for just a minute, We pretend libertarians are people of principle and not, instead, guided primarily by whiteness. We'd expect an outpouring of support for Will Vance Bronson. The silence of libertarian Twitter, to the extent they're not towing the fascist line, says tons. This is my great-grandmother, 1899 1982. She was Korean anarchist who risked her life to free people from the labor camps in imperialist Japan with her comrades during World War II. SPR Zeronsen was like her, but unfortunately he failed to save them. Let's give them a moment of silence. They are putting people into concentration camps, separating families, breaking them apart, tearing babies from their parents, sexually assaulting children on a mass level, and forcing people to suffer in their own filth. That is not incendiary rhetoric, it's fact. Every last militia doofus that went on about gun rights, because when the government starts rounding people up in camps we'll need to fight back, is now cheering government jackbooted thugs, shooting the one honest American who did precisely that.
And with that, I think we can wrap this video up. Thank you everybody for watching. Now, here it is. Your moment of clarity.
Was absolutely shocked. I mean, I found to be almost unstable. And I watched this today because I was watching between Pizzagate and Anthony Weinergate. I found Anthony Weinergate to be a terrible situation. I was watching between Pizzagate and Anthony Weinergate.